On this alien ship, touching a child was a serious crime. Not rude, not dangerous. A crime punishable by death. And I broke that law without even knowing it existed. Before you judge me, listen to what really happened. If you enjoy sci-fi stories where humans accidentally shock alien civilizations, subscribe now, because what I'm about to tell you is the kind of moment that changes a whole galaxy. My name is Marcus Vale, and I was never supposed to be on an alien ship in the first place. I'm not a soldier. I'm not a diplomat. I'm an environmental systems engineer. The kind of person who spends his life making sure air stays breathable and water stays clean. I was hired to inspect the atmospheric controls on a neutral trade vessel orbiting a distant star. The contract was simple. Check the recyclers, verify filtration levels, confirm climate stability, then go home. Nothing in the contract mentioned alien laws, cultural rules, forbidden gestures, or the danger of something as small as a child's hand. The ship was enormous. Larger than any human cruiser I'd ever worked on. The walls weren't flat like steel panels. They curved like living bone, smooth and seamless, with pale blue lines that pulsed slowly, almost like the ship had a heartbeat. The air was too perfect clean, balanced, filtered with a level of precision that made my engineering instincts both impressed and uneasy. It felt like breathing inside a laboratory. I noticed the first strange thing within minutes of boarding. The aliens avoided eye contact. Every corridor I walked through, every room I entered, the crew turned their faces slightly away from me. Not in disgust, not in fear. It was deliberate, controlled, like they had been trained to do it since birth. When an officer spoke to me, their head angled just enough that their gaze landed near my shoulder instead of my eyes. Even their security drones kept their sensors slightly off-center, like direct focus was taboo. I assumed it was cultural. Some species didn't like staring. Some considered it a challenge. Some believed it carried spiritual weight. I didn't push it because I was there to do a job, not start a misunderstanding. Still, a quiet part of my mind kept whispering that I should ask. I should have asked. The inspection took hours. The ship had multiple atmospheric zones designed for different species, with layered filtration and pressure locks that could switch from oxygen-rich air to denser chemical mixes in seconds. Whoever designed it had done it with paranoid-level redundancy. I admired it. I also noticed subtle gaps, places where a bypass could reroute flow if someone knew exactly what they were doing. I made notes, logged recommendations, and kept my head down. When I finished the last diagnostic scan, an alien escort guided me toward a waiting chamber near the ship's central spine. The alien didn't speak. They simply gestured for me to sit, then left with the same silent precision as a machine following programming. I sat alone in a softly lit room that hummed with low energy, trying to ignore the uncomfortable feeling that I was being evaluated even when no one was watching. That was when I heard crying. It was faint at first, a small sound slipping through the hum of the ship. Soft, shaky, the kind of sound that makes your chest tighten before your brain catches up. It didn't sound like a mechanical alarm or an injured animal. It sounded like a child trying not to be heard. I stood up before I even realized I'd decided to. My feet moved toward the door, and I stepped into the corridor. The sound came from a side passage that looked like it was meant for staff, not visitors. I hesitated for half a heartbeat, then followed the crying. I found her sitting alone on the floor. She was small, maybe 5 or 6 years old, blue-gray skin, large silver eyes, thin arms wrapped around her knees like she was trying to hold herself together. Her shoulders trembled with silent sobs. She looked lost in a way that no child should ever look lost, because the world around her was too large, too cold, too full of strangers, an alien child. I froze, because my brain couldn't understand the scene. No guards, no attendants, no adults, just a child alone on a ship that felt like it was built to prevent accidents. Every human instinct I had screamed one clear order: help her. I knelt a few steps away, careful not to scare her. My voice came out softer than I expected, like the air itself demanded quiet. "Hey," I said, "are you lost?" She looked up. For the first time since boarding the ship, an alien made direct eye contact with me. Her gaze hit me like a spotlight. Her eyes widened. She didn't scream. She didn't run. She simply stared, as if she had found something she didn't believe existed. Then she stood up and took one small step toward me. I smiled. A simple, reassuring smile, the kind adults use with scared kids everywhere. I meant it as comfort. I didn't know it was a trigger. That was my second mistake. She reached out, trembling, and grabbed my hand. I didn't pull away. I didn't even think to. Her fingers were cool against my skin, and the grip was desperate, like she was holding onto the only stable thing in the universe. I squeezed her hand gently and said the most human sentence I could think of. "It's okay. I've got you." The ship went silent, not quiet. Silent, it was like someone had muted the entire vessel. The hum seemed to shrink. The lights felt dimmer. Even the air felt heavier. I looked around, confused, and that's when I noticed the corridor was no longer empty. It had filled with bodies so fast it felt impossible. A sharp voice echoed down the hallway. I looked up and saw 3 armed alien guards rushing toward us. Their eyes were wide with something I had never seen on a trained security team, pure horror. One of them shouted words I couldn't understand, but my translator caught the last phrase clearly, and it cut through my blood like ice. "That contact is illegal." The child tightened her grip. I let go immediately, heart slamming against my ribs. "I'm sorry," I said quickly. "I didn't know." She was crying. I just asterisk. The guards surrounded us, weapons raised, hands shaking like they weren't sure whether to aim at me, at the child, or at the air between us. Their body language wasn't just aggression. It was panic, like the law I had broken wasn't just a rule, but a wall holding back something worse. The child looked confused for a second. Then her face hardened. She stepped forward again, not toward the guards, but toward me. Like she was choosing sides. "He helped me," she said in broken trade language. The words were clumsy, but the meaning was clear. He helped me. That made everything worse. The guards reacted like she had spoken a forbidden spell. The corridor lights dimmed. Heavy footsteps echoed slow, controlled, confident. The guard stepped aside as a tall figure approached. She was unlike the others, taller, stronger. Her armor was gold and white, etched with symbols that glowed faintly, and her presence pressed down on the air itself. The ship didn't feel like a machine around her. It felt like a throne room, the alien queen. Her eyes locked onto me, then shifted to the child, then back to me. "You touched her," the queen said calmly. "Yes," I answered, because lying felt impossible under that gaze. I didn't know it was forbidden. Her expression didn't change, but the silence behind it was terrifying. "On this ship," she said, "physical contact with a child by an outsider is considered contamination." My stomach dropped. "Contamination," I repeated, trying to keep my voice steady. "Punishment," she continued, "is permanent removal." The guards tightened their formation. The child stepped in front of me, small body like a shield. "No," she said loudly. "He is safe." The Queen's eyes widened just slightly. That tiny reaction told me something important. The child wasn't supposed to do that. Not here, not in public, not in front of guards, not in front of a queen. We were escorted through corridors that seemed to stretch forever, deeper into the ship, past sealed doors and glowing symbols. I expected a cell. I expected restraints. I expected my life to end with a clean, efficient sentence. Instead, we entered a chamber filled with soft light and floating displays that swam like holographic water. It wasn't a prison. It was a place where decisions were made. The child sat beside the Queen on a raised platform, still watching me with intense focus, like she was afraid I would disappear if she blinked. The Queen stood below a drifting constellation map, her armor reflecting gold and pale blue. She didn't look angry. That was worse. Anger is human. Anger can be softened. This was something older. "You broke one of our oldest laws," she said. "Do you know why it exists?" I shook my head. "No, Your Majesty." Asterisk, she tapped a symbol, and images bloomed in the air. Alien children, crying, taken, hidden inside cages. Labs filled with cold tools. Ships burning. Screams recorded in frequencies my ears could barely register, but my translator turned into meaning. The images were old, but the pain in them felt fresh. Centuries ago, the Queen said, our offspring were targeted by predators who understood one truth. A civilization will surrender if its children are taken. We survived because we built rules stronger than fear. She lifted her chin slightly. Absolute separation. No outsider touches our young. No bonds are formed. Emotion creates weakness. Weakness invites extinction. I swallowed. My throat felt too tight to speak, but I forced the words out. In human society, I said carefully, emotion creates trust. The chamber murmured. The council members' silent figures in layered armor shifted in subtle agitation. The Queen's gaze stayed locked on me. Asterisk, you did not seek power, she said. You did not seek advantage. You responded. Instinctively, asterisk, yes, I said. She was scared. I saw a child alone. The child nodded quickly. I was scared, she repeated, like she wanted the room to understand the part that mattered. The Queen turned slightly toward her, and her voice softened by the smallest amount. Why were you alone? The child hesitated, ears dipping. They told me to wait, she whispered. They were talking. The door closed. I couldn't find them. A ripple passed through the guards. Someone had made a mistake. Someone had left the princess alone. I realized then who she was. Not just a child. Not just an alien child. Royal blood. Protected by laws written in trauma. And I had broken the central one. The Queen stood taller, addressing the council. The law has been broken, she announced. But the result is unprecedented. This human did not harm our child. He calmed her. The chamber buzzed with unease. Therefore, the Queen said, he will not be punished. Relief hit me so hard, my legs almost failed. Then her eyes narrowed, and I felt the floor drop under me again. He will be studied. The word landed like a cage. For days I remained on the ship. Not in a cell, but in a controlled suite that looked comfortable until you noticed the sensors hidden in every corner. I was watched, monitored, questioned. Scientists asked about human bonding, human touch, human facial expressions, human emotional contagion. Military officers asked whether humans use children as psychological weapons. Cultural analysts asked whether my kindness was a ritual. No one seemed able to accept the simplest truth. I helped because someone needed help. The child visited me every day. She would appear at my door with an attendant who looked nervous, as if the act of bringing her close to me was already a risk. She asked questions the way only children do, direct and relentless. "Why do humans smile?" she asked once, tilting her head. "Because it tells someone they are safe," I answered. "Why do humans hold hands?" "Because it tells someone they are not alone." She stared at her own fingers like she was seeing them for the first time. "Why did it feel warm when you helped me?" she asked quietly. I didn't have an engineering answer for that. "Because you mattered," I said, and my body knew it before my brain did. The Queen observed these conversations from a distance at first. Sometimes she stood in the doorway, silent as a statue, eyes sharp, expression unreadable. But the longer she watched, the more her gaze shifted from suspicion to something else. Curiosity, maybe. Fear, maybe. Not fear of me hurting her child, but fear of what this meant for her world. One evening, she entered the suite alone. No guards, no advisors, just her and the quiet weight of authority. "My daughter," she said, "has not laughed openly since her father died." I blinked, surprised by the vulnerability in her tone. "She laughs with you," the Queen continued. "She speaks more. She sleeps without nightmares. And now my counsel argues that you are a hazard." I swallowed. I don't want to be a hazard. I don't want to cause trouble. "You already have," she said, but not cruelly, more like a statement of physics, because you showed her that our law is not the only form of protection. A week after the incident, the Queen summoned the council again. This time, I was brought into the chamber openly, not as a criminal, but as evidence. The child stood beside her mother with her chin lifted, proud, like she was daring the universe to disagree with her. For the first time, the Queen said, "Our child experienced safety through connection, not isolation. The law was meant to protect. Instead, it created fear. It created distance so strong that a child could be lost in her own home." The chamber erupted in argument. Some demanded my removal. Some demanded the child be isolated. Some argued that the law was sacred. Others whispered that the law was failing. I watched it all with a numb sense of unreality. I was an engineer. I fixed air systems. I had not asked to become the center of a cultural earthquake. The Queen raised her hand, and silence snapped into place. "This human did not weaken us," she said. "He revealed a flaw." She turned to the child. "Do you feel contaminated?" The child shook her head firmly. "I feel brave," she said. "I feel bigger." Silence fell. Even the council's anger couldn't erase the fact that the princess had spoken with certainty. The Queen looked at me. "You will return to human space," she said. "But understand this, Marcus Vale. Your action will not be forgotten." Later, in a private corridor near the ship's exit bay, she stopped me one last time. Her guards waited at a distance. The child stood beside her, holding a small token in her hand, a crystal charm, warm from her palm. "You changed nothing by force," the Queen said. "That is why you changed everything." The child stepped forward and hugged me. For a second, my body locked with fear because I expected alarms, weapons, chaos. But nothing happened. No guards moved. No sirens sounded. The ship remained quiet, and then, slowly, the impossible happened. One guard lowered his weapon. Another looked away, not in disgust, but in thought. A third met my eyes for a brief moment, then nodded, almost respectfully. For the first time since boarding the ship, alien eyes met mine without fear. I walked down the ramp into the shuttle bay, feeling like I had stepped out of a dream. The child waved until the doors sealed between us. The Queen stood still, regal, and silent, but her gaze followed me the entire time, as if she was watching a future unfold. When I returned to human space, nothing looked different. Same stations, same noisy corridors, same tired workers complaining about air filters and broken machines. I went back to my job. I filed reports. I drank bad coffee. I tried to convince myself it was over. But the galaxy didn't go back to normal, because somewhere out there, on a ship built from ancient fear, a queen was facing a truth she couldn't ignore anymore. That protection without warmth becomes a prison. That laws meant to prevent pain can create new pain. And that sometimes the most dangerous thing a human can do is not fight, not conquer, not threaten. Sometimes the most dangerous thing a human can do is simply be human. If you enjoyed this story, like the video and subscribe for more sci-fi stories where humans unknowingly change alien civilizations. New stories coming soon.